welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere. Bob is out on assignment today, and last week's episode, we don't know what happened. The guest we had on, Lynn Nickerson, this has happened to her before, many a times where the systems malfunction. We're in the process of putting in a brand new system, so by next week, we should be back, and Lynn will be back on, and hopefully this works out. So for this week, though, today we're going to talk about lake monsters. We're going to revisit some of the lake monsters because there's been some recent sightings of these lake and sea monsters. So today we're going to start with that. We're going to go, they're going to be lake monsters of New England. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. But before we get started in that, I just want to let everybody know that the paranormal season is upon us. We have a couple private events coming up. And we have an event coming up real soon at the most haunted cemetery in New England, if not one of the most haunted sites in New England, Hilldale Cemetery. We're looking at doing that real soon. And I will announce those dates on Facebook coming up. So please just let me know what's going on. Whenever you're ready, we'll be more than happy to have you down at Hilldale, and we'll let you know exactly what's going on at the most haunted cemetery in New England, Hilldale Cemetery. So today, we're going to talk about lake monsters and sea monsters. Now, lake monsters and sea monsters go back to the beginning of time. Native Americans wrote about them. The Vikings that roared the New England coast wrote about them. But we're actually going to start off right here in... I'm going to talk about New Hampshire, really, but New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts. So the first one we're going to talk about goes back to this legend of the large serpent swimmer in the Piscataqua River that dates back to Native American times. The Abenakis refined to this creature as Gatski, pronounced Yeetska, meowing the great serpent and the big serpent in 1918 at Greg's Falls, which was constructed by a Manchester Light and Power Company, and it's called Glenny Lake at Greg's Falls Dam in Goffstown, New Hampshire. Glenny was trapped in the lake. He is described as a 10 to 12 foot creature, and as thick as a keg with 4 flippers and a long neck and a snout that looks like a dog, and a row of sharp teeth with eyes colored of peeled onions. When swimming, he appears flap and its flippers up and down like wings, and can also twist them in a corkscrew motion. Some believe that this is the coming of the Abenaki folklore like Champ, Mahema, and Winnie. These are different native names for different lake creatures. The next one we're going to go to is Dublin, New Hampshire, and Dublin Lake. Dublin Lake is 1,480 feet above sea level. It's part of the Connecticut and Long Island watershed. It's tributaries to the Manawa Brook, 236 acres, 64 to 100 feet deep, locked off by 101. Minnicule is a tributary of the Ashalant River. In the 1980s, a free diver went missing in Dublin Lake. A few days later, he was found naked and incoherent, babbling about a lake or sea monster. He was on land when the hikers found him. No description was ever given, but the lake has underwater caves that have not been fully explored or explained. So there's been no verification outside of that one man. Lake Winnipesaukee, everybody's favorite summer retreat. Lake creature named Winnie, date back to the early 1900s. The lake monster has been seen around the lake for years. It's a snake-like creature, 40 to 50 feet. It's been sighted by locals and tourists, and now they have a webcam that you can look, just like they track Champy at Lake Champlain. Lake Winnipesaukee is 100 feet deep, 20 to 50 feet at its points. In the Ossipee Triangle, and Lake Winnipesaukee is also in the Ossipee Triangle. It's a volcanic lake with a strange history of UFO, paranormal, Bigfoot, and other cryptids. Lake monster included. The natives warned of a snake-like creature with webbed feet that could move from lake to lake, meaning Big Ossipee and Little Ossipee Lake, it's two separate lakes. Is lakes and repeats, and it's 50 feet plus with a snake-like head, and says looked like Champ was first spotted in the late 1800s and seen throughout the early 1900s. Actually, the cabin owner wrote about the early brochures. So on Little Ossipee Lake, there was a cabin out there, a bunch of cabins owned by a guy that would rent them out for the summer, so you could go, have fun with the family and, have a vacation at the lake. He wrote about the state. He wrote about Ossipee, the lake monster Ossipee. Now, whether he was a lake monster or not, or was just wrote about, we don't know. But I've never seen the lake or any of these. But I find it interesting that in the Ossipee Triangle, you actually have two sea creatures. Up in Maine, you have Poker Moonshine Lake. It goes back to the Algonquin natives. In 1882, it was seen by a sawmill owner. Algonquin natives have seen this lake monster for centuries. Legend has it the creature was born out of a disagreement between the Algonquin shaman and the shaman of the Micmac. The Micmac chief turned into an enormous serpent. Since then, the serpent-like creature, nearly 60 feet long, has been seen swimming around the lake. The serpent is special. The serpent is special. The lake monster has been reported to be able to leave the lake and its body and move it over land to nearby lakes. So it's able to move from lake to lake. In 1882, a sawmill owner claimed to see his head, a monster 4 feet by 3 feet wide and 4 feet wide by 3 feet deep. And then we have Champ. Location in Vermont near Fort Henry. Endless sightings since 1819. Champ saw Champ is size is about 15 feet, 15 and then 50 feet, 15 feet thick, 50 feet thick, big. Lake Champlain itself was 435 square miles, 400 foot in the middle deep, 7 trillion gallons of water, 587 miles of shoreline, 70 plus islands. Borders 2 states and Canada. One of the eyewitnesses of the sea serpent, was a captain named Crum, who caught sight of the sea monster in the Beluga Bay area of New York, and Plattman in Crum saying it was 187 feet long, flat head with 3 teeth, 2 under jaw, 1 above the jaw and the upper jaw, black in color with a star on his forehead and a belt of red around his neck. And his eyes were colored of a peeled onion. Railroad workers on the shores of Dresden, New York, saw a massive fish-tailed serpent swimming towards the University of Burlington. Students witnessed this creature slicing through the water, and a good 15 feet of its head and neck were visible. Most of the accounts are the same. P.T. Barnum offered over $50,000 for this creature so he could put the serpent in his show. Over the years, some people say it's style humped sea serpent and is close to an extinct reptile called the plesiosaurus, with long neck, and the body with flippers. So that's a plesiosaurus. So some people think it's actually a plesiosaurus. They may sound off, but underneath Champlain, there are underwater caves that reach and allow to the ocean, and ancient whales and remaining house had been found in Vermont. So they actually found whale carcasses in Vermont. In 1849, the famous Charlotte whale was a beluga whale, though they found them in Vermont. So there must be, in order for these big creatures to access these ponds and lakes and swamps, it leads you to believe that actually some of these serpents may be coming in from the ocean. It's pretty cool. Then in 1977, Sandra Manisi, vacationing in Vermont, saw a long brown neck in the water and took a picture with his Kodak Instamatic. Wow, that ages me. A Kodak Instamatic. Wow. Took a picture with his Kodak Instamatic, and Champ, as we know it, if you go over to the Henry, if you go over to the park have outlasted every recorded sighting since August 1909. There's still sightings today. In fact, there was one just recently I saw on Facebook, probably about a week or so ago. So there are still sightings today. And that's what's interesting about these things. If you keep an eye on them, the sightings keep coming in. We don't know why. We don't even know where these creatures are from. But have these creatures living among us are very interesting. They may be able to help us learn our valuable history and what was here and how important it is to keep our environment, healthy. All right. So in Maine, in Pembascot Bay, we have Cassie. Future U.S. Navy hero Edward Preble was on board his ship, the Proctor, and saw a sea serpent on the surface of the water. Raised his head 10 feet out of the water before diving back into the water. 1780, a similar creature was spotted next year in the Broad Bay when sailors obscured a serpent for about 45 feet long. Raised its head out of the water, and it's hard to say a long skiing neck. Cassie has been seen by many since many times from 1912 to the 1940s. In 1958, it was seen taking a fish and then it disappeared. It was last reported in 2002 when a woman said she saw something like Loch Ness near Biddeford Pool, Maine. So, some of these creatures have been seen around here for a while. 1700s, early 1900s. We would all love to know what's going on and how it's all going to work out. But it is interesting to see how these serpents are now reappearing and how some of these lakes may have ties to oceans. So we always have to wonder, what is out there? What's going on out there? What is the ocean all about? I find it fascinating what you learn and what you see out there. Eastport, Maine, August 2nd, 1868. The great people, a group of people saw what they thought might be a fish floundering in the salt marsh on the west side of Eastport, Maine. It looked like a shark and the part of a fish. Shark and part of fish. The spectators were scorned and rushed over and shot 70 musket balls into his direction till it died. In October 1868, Hoppers wrote the article on the creature was 30 feet long and laughed and weighed over 11 tons with on economist diesel. So this creature had shark-like features with a huge legs ending with webbed feet, sharp pointy teeth. The carcass was taken to Bangor and never heard from again. So they have found these carcasses, but when the scientists or the government come in, like they always do, the pieces just disappear. And while you're on your way back down this way and you're enjoying a hot summer day or a spring day in Kittery in the Portsmouth area, in 1886, local boat owners be advised that a venomous sea serpent was spotted Newwood Island. Two witnesses in Augusta Fresnel and Hiram Toby of Kittery only thought it was a long string of floating seaweed. At the mouth of the Piscataqua River, as they pulled closer to the USO, the unidentified swimming object, they realized that this creature was not seaweed but a living creature. It was about 4 feet out of the water, 75 foot long, and rapidly moving eastward. So that was 1886. Think about that for a minute, people. 1886. How old were you? Where were you? What was life like in 1886? So it is quite interesting to think about this and see where these creatures are coming from. 1901, the Ports Hotel reported similar creature off of York Beach. These creatures seen oftenly up and down the civil coast. June 30th, 1909, Portsmouth paper reported the discovery of a fine specimen of a sea serpent, found halfway buried in the sand at Salisbury Beach. The coiled creature petrified, perfectly penciled, the serpent had apparently died when a splinter of wood had projected into its eye. Very sad ending for those creatures. The creature was on display at a local drugstore for years. Pilgriming to Apador Island, Dr. Samuel Botich noted and discovered Lation. It says twice motions. The brother of Isle of Shoals, Port Cecilia Thaxter. So that is real interesting. What happened with these sea serpents. The brother of the Isle of Shoals poet, Cecilia Thatcher, also claimed to see a fast-moving sea serpent once terrified a group of hotel guests out sailing, but the snake-like creature vanished off as it approached the boat. The Manistet was beloved from the hotels all the way to the water for weeks. From the total destruction of mackerel fishing for weeks. So these things eat a lot, and that's why they're here. It's really interesting to see how this all turns out. I mean, all these creatures that we're talking about, from Nessie to Winnie to Cassie to all of these creatures, they all have one thing in common. They're hard to spot. They're hard to see. So this classic sea serpent was also spotted in the same area. Fulfill of the muskin fox, swordfish, 800 pounds. Sunfish, massive flocking, 15-foot. Massive sunfish, someone thought, 15-foot long and could wash up to 5,000 pounds. They get their name from lying in the sun and hampered off the river's beach. The National Telegraph all right. So this other one was seen in 1960. 7-foot, around 1,800-pound fish was harpooned off of Revere Beach. The National Telegraph described this sea serpent as it could be a flat dragon ocean fish, the world's largest bony fish that could reach up to 50 feet. Also, submarine division had to evacuate one. And if you live up here on the North Shore, you've heard of this one, for sure. Today, so back in 1638, John Jocelyn, it was first seen, and then by the natives. And then in 1641, John Jocelyn, an England traveler, wrote in his journals about an account with a sea serpent that a passerby saw off the coast of Gloucester. They told him that the sea serpent was a snake-like legend called up and pot like a cable upon a rock at the Cape Ann, a boat passing with two Native Americans. The English wanted to shoot and kill us, but the natives alongside were different. The natives believed that killing this creature would then put their own lives at danger. So the Native Americans, some of these, they prayed to these creatures. Some of them were scared of these creatures. It's really interesting. And then in 1817, Gloucester sea serpent was seen and sketched, but science closed not believe in the sketch. In 1819, a few years later, seen in Lynn. The summer of 1817, hundreds of people, including crews of 4 whaling vessels, had sighted a serpent off of Gloucester Harbor. Traveled to Gloucester and called for evidence. Witness said the serpent's head looked a little like a turtle's head, but longer than a body. Imagine encountering one of those while you're fishing. Another said the hand of a Roddy swear, but no longer than a thaw of a dog. Some people believe it's the head of a rattlesnake, but longer than the head of a rattlesnake. The Lenine family found a small sea serpent with lumpy skin, which identified as a itchy sea serpent. They dubbed this species as Scophilus atlanticus, but it may have been a carcass of a black snake, but no one will ever know because it had become so unfocused. This has become many sightings throughout the years. There was a sighting in 1997 of the same sea creature in the same area. And then in 2017, when Gloucester celebrated 200 years of the sea serpent. So that's a big thing in Gloucester. If you ever want to go check it out, please do. It's real interesting and very exciting, too. And then in July 1833, passing at Egg Rock and Protomany, winding into Lynn Harbor, and again on Sunday morning, heading for the South Shore, it was seen by 40 or 50 ladies and gentlemen that could not they could not know what they looked at it and went, wow, what is that? It wasn't clear to them what it was. But again, in July of 1833, something had been seen out in the ocean down the South Shore. July 1877, other sightings, Boston Globe, people descended what they saw, skinny sea serpent that had been such a tanner claw. The New England seacoast he was on Monday, and again this morning, and his circumstances of his premiere are given to such detail by astonished beholders that there is geared towards credence. Given the statement that an unusual and prodigious serpent monster displaying himself in the water of Mass Bay. Again, in August of 1819, a letter appeared in the United States Service Journal that a great sea serpent was sighted off the coast in the Hunt. Images of this huge snake-like creature, 50 to 60 feet long, passed through at moderate speed and had blackish curves, which counted 13. Other pens have seen 15 blackish curves. Other people that day saw it from their boats. Boy, imagine being in a boat and having that thing swim by your boat. That's quite scary, I'll be honest with you. That is very scary. Extremely scary for that point, if you want my honest opinion. Sightings of this creature today in Nova Scotia. The last sighting of this was in November 1970 when a sea monster washed ashore at Scituate, south of Boston. Over the next 3 days, 10,000 people showed up and discussed clearing it. It was 50 feet long, but the summer seekers hack off many prices, and New England aquariums could not investigate. So something weird popped up on the beach, and there was a court report made, but nothing seen. And not a court report, but so this carcass just, the New England Aquarium could not investigate what this carcass was. In 1910, John Dexter took a photograph of this creature in Ipswich Bay. Pictures were debunked as a hoax. In November of 1970, a sea monster, or a sea serpent, washed upon Mcdermott in Scituate, Mass. Thousands of people showed up to see this dead carcass. It was 30 feet in length and weighed 4 tons. People took a samurai off the and it was named Cecil, the seaside serpent. But that was back in 1970. So, all these creatures have been sighted along our great coast. But what I got to say about this is, and what's interesting, the further I researched this, we did this just in New England, but even down south, there were snake-like creatures spotted in the early part of this country's history, 16, 17, 1800s, all the way down to Florida. And some of them looked like the Gloucester sea serpent. So I would lead to believe that the Gloucester sea serpent, the Rockport, the Cape Ann monster, the one seen off of Portsmouth, are all in the same band, and they travel in deep waters out in the ocean where it's unexplored, and they give people a scare, but they also give them water. So you have to wonder, are these serpents that bad, or are they just out there for survival? And when will we see one again? I go out to the beach a lot, and I've yet to see one. And, it makes it real interesting type of conversation. So if you heard of a sea monster before and you want to let me know about it, email us at paranormalzone.com or EssexCountyGhostProject.org. We'll look into it for you, and if we're not that far away, we can come visit the area and see what we see. We have fully expanded, most of our Essex County has fully expanded their services into the realms of UFO, cryptids, and sea monsters. So if you're living along the coast, you're living along a big lake, you're up in the Bridgewater Triangle, and you have a question, or you're concerned of what you might have seen in the lake, give us a call. We'll be able to help you out, especially in what we call today these flap areas. It's very unique what's going on out there. And what makes it even more interesting, is that we've never actually caught one. There was one that was kind of caught and believed to be in a drugstore in Salisbury, but I never remember that because the drugstore closed when I was a little kid. So I don't ever know what happened to that serpent that was seen in Salisbury. So we just have to wait and see how this will, turn out. If you're out in the coast this year, we're going to leave you with this. This is a short show tonight, but I'm going to leave you with this. If you're out there and you're on Lake Champlain, if you're out there and you're in the Finger Lakes in New York, if you're out there at one of the lakes in Maine, New Hampshire, or along the Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine shoreline, and you see one of these creatures, don't panic. Take a picture and send it to the paranormalzone.org or .com, or you can send it to my personal email, thomasspitalere@yahoo.com. That's Thomas Spitale @yahoo.com, and we'll go out and see what we see. But it'd be interesting to see if anybody listening to the show, even if you get something in England, or somewhere, in the Netherlands, in the jungle wildernesses of South America, Canada. If you see something, take a picture, send it. We'll look at it, and we'll try to figure out what it is for you. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. My name is Tom Spitalere, and my partner Bob, my buddy, my good friend, my co-host, will be back next week. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you all in the paranormal. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.